Well, thank you very much, Governor. Peter, coming back to you as we sort of wind up in this conversation, even the president now has said 48 hours, if you're living in lowland areas, please vacate. The question that we don't hear, I mean, the answer that we don't hear is where to? And what's the procedure of moving? You've been dealing with this for a long time now, telling people, you know, you're living in lowland areas, you're living in flood-prone areas, you're living in landslide-prone areas, you need to move, you need to move. Where do you tell the people to go to? And how do they move?
Thank you very much, Lati, for that question. And I think it has two parts I want to answer it in two parts. There are conversations that need to happen in the longer term, because then people start thinking, because some people have, and I think this is something we have as Kenyan people, we move to areas and make them our places. For example, riparian lands and waterways, those are risky areas. So I think if people have gone and constructed along waterways, it was always going to be a risky affair. It just means these people need to make plans to be in alternative areas. Yeah. But that is now another tenure, land tenure, and residency. Those are different issues that need to have conversations in the longer term.
Okay.
But in the immediate, I think the advice can be in the spirit of mitigating against risk of loss of life. It would be prudent at this point for the people concerned to try and self-evacuate, make an evacuation plan. This is the time maybe you may need to reach out to your existing coping mechanisms. Coping mechanisms in the sense that, do you have an alternative up-country place that you can go to? Do you have your ancestral home that is another place apart from where you are now, that now you may temporarily move out? Because I think the statement is these people need to move out from areas predisposed,
where they are currently
predisposed to disaster. Let's first of all save lives. Let's first of all avoid risk. Then we can start having those conversations of where to. I would see it from a risk reduction perspective. That's how I would see it. So that now later on we can start having conversations is, did you need even to be there in the first place?
Yeah. But Peter, even the later on question. Right now, the National Government Administration officers, the county governments, and the others, and the Kenya Red Cross. You've heard Governor Kihika, for example, saying, just looking at what has happened in Maimahiu, they can already think, well, we had a Maimahiu sub-county hospital, we had land there, maybe people could move there. Can't the government agencies be thinking that way right now? Identify those areas and tell people, please move, go. If you don't have anywhere else to go, at least you have this place to go.
So there's normally what we do called hazard mapping, and one process of hazard mapping and in the coordination mechanisms. And just even to speaking a bit to what you had asked Governor Kihika, and she's rightly said it, on the coordination mechanism, there's the National Disaster Operations Center that takes lead at the national level, county steering groups that coordinates at the county level, which is led by the governor and the county commissioner, and then Red Cross and humanitarian actors who fill in between. So what normally happens is a collaborative effort to map out what we call evacuation centers. So these evacuation centers can be schools, can be churches, can be land where probably government allocates and says this land is alternative place whereby people can be temporarily evacuated. So now then we do what we call temporary shelter. Temporary shelter, for example, is where we can come with our expertise as Kenya Red Cross, for instance, to construct temporary shelter using tarpaulins and a temporary structure, then provide what we are calling basic NFI items for dignified just for dignified human existence.
Just for temporary movement.
Yeah, for
temporary. From here, at least you can stay here as we think
and
of the next.
Exactly. And there's the non-food items to address issues like what she was talking about, sanitary pads, dignity kits for people who've lost everything.
Right.
So as to the question of where they're moving to, I think the right thing that is happening is the mapping of the potential evacuation centers.
Okay.
They're now planning on temporary shelter.
Peter, thank you very much for that conversation. Peter Murgo is the manager for disaster risk reduction at the Kenya Red Cross. We've also been having the conversation with Governor Susan Kihika of Nakuru County, who's told us what they're doing to address the 304 people who are displaced. She's given us an update, 51 people dead so far, and 26 admitted to hospitals. More coming up. Ahead in business,